Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to level up your money, mindset, and life. You are now locked into the 24K Life Podcast, the show where limits get shattered and average just won't cut it. And now, your host, advisor, author, and money coach, the man on a mission to help you live your best life, Derick Gant, Mr. 24K Life himself.
Hey, it's Derick Gant, the 24K Life Podcast to Prosperity. And we're here to make sure that you are living your absolute best life possible. And in order to do that, we are hell-bent on bringing you top level 24K gold excellent individuals that can help you to understand where you are, where you need to be, and then figure out how to actually get there. And today, I am deeply honored to introduce Miss Vicki Casey. She is a board-certified family nurse practitioner with advanced postgraduate training in functional medicine and hormone replacement therapy for both men and women. Prior to her current work, she spent years in family practice, focusing on chronic disease, metabolic disorders. What makes this mission, her mission to inform people on elevating their life, so important is that Vicki is committed to both helping men and women not only survive, but to optimize their health through every dimension possible. Diet, exercise, doesn't it sound 24K so far? Diet, exercise, spirituality, mental health, relationships, sleep, and most importantly, getting them hormones together. I'm excited because we have been hearing a lot of white older men come out to the truth and go, well, we've been kind of lying for a while. They didn't say that. Don't think they said it. They didn't say that, but that's what they really been saying. Vicki recognized early that women's health has been shaped by fear-based medicine, and she is here to give us the truth about how to reclaim your body's vitality and purpose. Vicki, thank you for coming and joining us on the 24K Life Podcast.
Thanks for having me. Super excited. A little nervous, but super excited.
Girl, please, we ain't nervous. You know what? We only get nervous about stuff we don't know. You are the expert extraordinaire. So we are going to have a good time. My heart is in bringing you, and you already know this. I met you and your husband, and I predominantly met your husband, and that dude is one of a kind. And when I met Mike, I was in the hospital. I had just had a little stroke, and I was working out and had a little accident with my jump rope. Too much blood pressure, too much whatever, and shot a clot to my head. So long story short, I beat Mike. Mike's not even my nurse, okay? I don't know if he told you. He wasn't even my nurse. This dude just came in my room like, hey, what's up? Like, wow, what are you here for? You look really young and fit. What are you doing in the hospital? So I told him the story. And he then encouraged me beyond measure because he shared his story about having a stroke. And he looked in such amazing physical. Hey, everybody, I got to show you this. I got to show you this so you can see who I'm talking about. This is Mike, me and Vicki at Bowling Green State University. Their son goes to BGSU. I'm a graduate of BGSU, but Mike is a beast. He's just a beast. And so I wanted to share and show you that Vicki and I are more than just colleagues, man. I trust and depend on her. And she doesn't know this, but behind the scenes, I trust and depend on Mike because Mike tells me what I need to know to ask Vicki when we have our one-on-ones. But to get to the point, Mike was telling me how he was able to recover so well and so quickly and at back to full capacity. And he gave the credit to God and his wife. And he talked about what she did. She rolled up her sleeves and she dug in to help him get back to normal, above normal. And I was just impressed. He says, you got to talk to her, got to meet her. He FaceTimes her while we're in the hospital. And I get to meet Vicki, and I was in so much love with the two of them. And you got to say that when you're talking about a married woman. You got to say both of them. So I was so in love with both of them that I invited Vicki to speak at the 24 Life Code Conference in 2024. She did an amazing job. And I know I'm doing a lot of talking, but Vicki, I'm so excited to have you here. And I just want everybody to understand, the people that watch the show, the people that know me know I just don't F around, and we get to it. And I want them to know that our relationship started with us not messing around and getting right at it, and how you were able to influence my life. And then your ass went on to influence my relationship, because you got my partner and her hormones together and right, and had her crying about feeling, she was crying about feeling better. I was like, what's wrong?
She's my picture perfect patient. She's amazing.
She'll be happy to hear that. But I wanted everybody to know how much impact you've had in the 24K Life community, because when you impact me, I impact everyone else. And that's just a trickling effect of the work that you've done and the work that you do. Now, because of your education to us, I wanted to share with the world some of the things that we found out with the very first question you asked at the conference. You asked how many women were told that. Do you remember the first question? Yeah, it was something along the lines of, how many of you have been told or believe that you can't, do XYZ because it causes cancer or causes a problem? And every woman in the room raised her hand.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then you debunked it. I was sold. I was already sold before you got there. I was completely sold after that. Every woman in the room raised her hand, and then you went on a little deal for 10 or 15 minutes to just debunk that one topic. There was the Diary of a CEO podcast came out with an interview, and I sent it to you, and you're like, oh, I already watched it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Remember that? It was 2 hours. You're like, oh, I already watched it. It was amazing. I want to get right at it. Can you share, what are the bigger fallacies out there about hormone replacement therapy?
God, there's so many. The biggest thing I see is the misinformation that came out of the WHI. And on Monday, the FDA just took the black box warning off of all estrogen products, which is huge.
Wow.
It's a big deal.
Explain that for people that really don't know what that means.
Well, after the Women's Health Initiative, they came out and said that it was done. Let me just go back. The Women's Health Initiative was done, a study that was done to see the benefits of hormones for cardiovascular disease. But in that, they took women in their 60s who were already at risk for hypertension, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, and breast cancer for that matter. And they divided them into two groups. And one group had an estrogen-only arm. The other group had an estrogen-progestin arm, and the progestin was horse urine, so that was a synthetic hormone. The estrogen-only arm had a 0% increase in breast cancer, and in fact, it had a 23% reduced risk of developing breast cancer. The estrogen-progestin arm had a 0.08% absolute risk, and I'm not going to go too deep into absolute and relative risk because it gets a little murky, but 0.08% is barely, it's not statistically significant. But because they said that arm caused breast cancer, they ripped the hormones out from underneath women. Prior to that, 38 to 40% of women were getting estrogen therapy. And after that, it went down to today, and today's rate is about 4%. In 2025, 4% of women get hormone replacement therapy. And I have a very shocking fact. 0.5% of those women are African American or Latino, which is devastating for me. I've been in practice and doing this for about 3 years now, and I have 3 African American patients. That's it.
Wow. So let's go back, because we don't want anybody to misconstrue the 3 years. So originally you were in more of
sorry.
That's okay. No, don't apologize. Yeah. We just want to make sure people don't walk away like, oh, that girl don't know what she's talking about. She'll have been doing it 3 years. So really, you made the shift from treating chronic disease and traditional family practice into functional medicine. You did that 3 years ago, but you have how many years of experience?
Oh my gosh. I've worked in the hospital for 15. I started in 2005 and worked in the emergency room for about 15, 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went back and got my master's degree, and I worked in family medicine. And I worked for a program. It was a FQHC, which is a federally qualified health center. So those patients are different because they are socioeconomically challenged. They are homeless. They are Amish. They are a lot of mental illness and a lot of addiction. So it was very sick medicine. And it can be challenging as a provider because you're expected to see patients about every 15 to 20 minutes. And these people have COPD, heart failure, chronic hypertension, diabetes, mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of becomes this hamster wheel of health where people just float through, and you give them the frontline medications. You have protocols that say, treat them with this, treat them with this. So you see people come in and you identify a person as a disease.
Right.
And it happened a lot in the hospital where people would come in and you'd see things in triage and you'd say, okay, who's got the gallbladder? Who's got the MI? Who's got the broken hip? So I wanted to focus more on not so much treating the disease, but treating the person.
Right.
Because that's a lost art.
Yeah.
And I've grown up in medicine. I've been in it for about 30 years, and I've seen a lot of changes, and a lot of it's not good because the focus is on a pill for hypertension or a pill for diabetes when nobody's talking to the patient about, I say to my people, your life is like a wheel. And every spoke in the wheel, like you had said earlier, every spoke in that wheel determines how that wheel functions. So spiritually, psychologically, relationships, how much are you sleeping? How much are you moving? Every single one of those spokes is making that wheel function. And so when 2 or 3 of those are off, it's just crawling along, trying to just get to the next spot. And it's not a way to live.
No, we're not trying to just survive. We're trying to thrive, and we want to live a great quality of life.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question. When someone says they're going through the change, when somebody says, I'm going through the change, walk us through what actually is happening when someone says that.
Oh my gosh. Well, the change happens statistically in America. Menopause happens at about 50 to 51 in there, but you can have symptoms about 7 to 10 years ahead of that. And the problem is, as a female going to a doctor with all these different symptoms, when you start to lose estrogen specifically, we'll just focus on that one for now. When you start to lose estrogen, it affects every single system in your body. And so what I see is women come in, and I'm kind of like the last resort because they've been to the family care, they've been to the gynecologist, and they're either given an SSRI because they have anxiety or depression, or they're told it's just the change, right? So in my opinion, people that treat patients, if you see somebody that's coming in and they're in their late 30s, early 40s, if you're thinking about giving them a mammogram or having them do a mammogram, they should be offered a DEXA scan, which is a bone density test, and hormones, get your levels checked, because things can start changing well before your last period. And so when those changes start is when you see brain fog, ringing in the ears, dry eyes, hair loss, dry skin, heart palpitations, frozen shoulder, gut issues, genitourinary issues, bone loss. But you don't know any of these things are going on because nobody's doing any of your hormone levels. So you're having all these random symptoms. And then you go to a cardiologist for your heart palpitations, or you go to the ortho doctor for your frozen shoulder, or you go to your family doctor because you're depressed, and you get a medication and a test. If I'm a physician and I see your 45 female, I'm doing your hormones.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I mean,
and it's medical malfeasance in my experience, because doctors will say it is just the change.
Yeah.
But we are not just boobs, babies, and hot flashes.
Dawn spent years in misery going to the doctor, and she asked her doctor about, is there anything that I can do? This is just unbearable. And the doctor was like, no, honey, you just got to keep your big girl pants on and suck it up. And,
oh God.
And the doctor believed it because she was going through the same thing, not doing anything about it. And she's the doctor. So it wasn't like, well, I don't know. She didn't know. I think
they don't know. They don't.
I think they just stay in their field of expertise, and they're so overwhelmed with people that are in trouble or hurting or whatever, that they don't learn what's going on, or they don't go deeper into these studies and say, oh, they only tested 120 people. I mean, so so it's a systemic issue. Which is why we're talking about it here on the podcast. Because I mean, how many guys are going to talk about what we're talking about? But the reason why I'm talking about it, number one, is that the bulk of our 24K Life community is women. And the second reason I'm talking about it is because you helped me with my hormone replacement therapy, my testosterone replacement therapy. And that leads me to a different question. We know why men need testosterone replacement. We start losing it, I think at 27, 28, starts to dip down. And every year it goes lower. But what role does testosterone play in a woman's hormone replacement strategy?
It's huge. There's so many things. Our ovaries produce testosterone, and the adrenal glands too, but the majority of it comes from your ovaries. So when you go through menopause, and even in perimenopause, when you start losing testosterone, the first thing I hear from women is their libido. And the second thing is fatigue, low energy, low mood, low muscle mass. It's a protective for muscle. But I need to also say that testosterone is critical, but we have to incorporate using our muscle with that. I use testosterone myself. And women deserve to have a libido, and nobody will talk to women about that. I cannot tell you the number of times that I've had a woman come into my office, sit in the chair, and they love their husband and he's wonderful and he treats me great. I just don't want to have sex with him. They have no libido, and it's an easy fix, but there's no FDA approval for testosterone for women for hyposexual desire disorder. That's changing, and they're really looking at that now. But for right now, it's kind of hard for a woman to go to a family doctor or even to a gynecologist and say, I just don't want to have sex. I actually had a girl, I work out in the morning, and I had a 38-year-old female come up to me, and we were talking about hormones because that's what I do. And I was asking her how she was feeling, and I said, how's your libido? And she said, oh, it's just horrible. And her gynecologist told her to read a dirty book. Yep.
Okay.
Drink a glass of wine. Women lay there and they're in pain because of the loss of estrogen in their vagina. Mm-hmm. And testosterone helps with libido, but it also helps with vaginal lubrication. So you don't ever just have to do all of it. You can pick and choose. It's kind of like a basket. And we talk about that. What's appropriate for you? What's appropriate in your life? But testosterone is critical.
Man, I first of all, as a guy, I had no idea. I mean, I know that men produce estrogen and testosterone, and I knew women produce both, but you kind of forget about the women producing testosterone because it's always talked about in the guys' universe.
That's a great point. Yeah. We actually have estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And if you line them up and make them the same measurement, in our younger years, when we have our hormones or our ovaries are working, we should have 4 times the amount of testosterone that we do estrogen.
Wow. So for those of you that maybe didn't catch something that she said, you called it
sexual desire disorder.
Okay, so what's that called? Say it again.
Hyposexual desire disorder.
Okay, so what that's called is you have no desire to get laid. So,
yeah.
So I want to make sure that people that are listening know exactly what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah.
And what kind of relationship do you want to have where you don't want, you love your spouse, your partner, whomever, but you really you don't care if you get it or not. So,
if I have 2 people, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. There's a delay.
Oh,
if I have 2 people come into my office and one of them says, I'm tired, I can't sleep, I have no energy, I don't want to go work out, I don't want to have sex. And then the other person says, I'm tired, I can't sleep, I have no energy, I don't want to have sex. I'm going to give you testosterone, but you can't have it. Do you know why?
Why?
Because she's a female.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
So men get Cialis, Viagra, and testosterone. Women don't even get the conversation.
Right. Is that going to change after this change of the label was removed?
Well, I think it will change because the label was removed, because there's a conversation happening now. Mm-hmm. And it's not ever just one hormone. We have estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone.
Right.
And it just opens up the door for conversations about testosterone's a female hormone. So if you're going to replace two, why wouldn't you replace the third that has a critical, it's a critical player in muscle mass, bone health, libido, mood. And libido is a mood, right? You can't really measure that in lab work.
Right. So let me share with everybody, and then Vicki, you can chime in. But I was always curious as to the process. And so when I asked Vicki to speak at my event, the 24K Life Conference, I did that, but I wanted to know what the process was. So I underwent the process before the conference so I could understand what was going on. So I want to share with you all what the process is. So you get on a phone call, an initial consult with somebody brilliant, i.e. Vicki, because your normal provider isn't going to go into details. She's already told you. And I've had so many people go, I tried to talk to my doctor about it and they blew me off. Okay. Or they order one lab and that one lab does one thing and doesn't address the conclusion of all the things that come together. So anyway, you sit down and you talk to Vicki. She asks you about your life and she asks you about all these different things. And then she will order some lab work. And the first lab work order was pretty extensive, wasn't it, Vicki? I mean, it was a pretty, give or take, how many tests, do you run that first time, give or take?
What is it, 15, maybe 15 to 20?
Yeah, something like that. Now, that doesn't mean you need to get 15 or 20 vials of blood. You just give your blood and they run these different tests on them. And the problem is that when you do that under normal conditions, they're only running 1 or 2 tests, not all 15. And so I got a full makeover of all of my blood work, from my insulin to my cholesterol to my testosterone, a whole bunch of other DEAH, my DEA or DAE.
DHEA, yeah.
There you go. That's the one. DHEA, to my creatine levels. I mean, it's just immeasurable, the information that you get from this full scope lab test. And then once you get the test results, Vicki calls, or her office calls and schedules a follow-up meeting. And then she goes through line by line by line, if it's good, if it's indifferent, or if it needs some improvement. She'll never say bad. She'll just need some improvement. and then she will give you her recommendation she's already reviewed these results. Don't think she's doing it on the call with you. She's already got the results like you did. And she's going to go through and say, hey, here's where you are. Here's a normal range. And here's where I think you should be. And even though you're supposed to be, like with me, I think my testosterone was like around 260. We wanted it to be over 750, 800. And so she doesn't go straight for the jugular because she doesn't know what's going to react with your chemistry in what way. So she gave me the first dose, and then we had a follow-up, I think 3 months later, and then she adjusts from the initial, and then every 3 months we meet and I get labs and we adjust. Your boy is 24K, so my stuff was so stable, we went to 6 months. You see how I like to pat myself on the back, Vicki? Look at her.
Yeah, you're great.
Like, oh, okay. But we went from 3 to 6 because my numbers really were pretty stable from the second to the third. So we went every 6 months. And I can promise you that what I did was I keyed in on the things that really needed improvement. And the first time it was like my liver functions. So I went on a little liver cleanse. My sugar was elevated. So Vicki helped me pick some things, or she recommended some things, helped me pick some things to get that. I altered my workouts to add a little bit more cardio. I altered my diet. And then my numbers, my one number, Vicki, went from, you can tell me which one it was. It went from 26 to 9. That was that insulin number?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It went from 20
amazing.
to 9. Now that was the third or fourth test. That wasn't the first or second or third test. So I was working on this, and then you get to actually see the results. And in addition to that, you get to share with her how you're feeling. Like, do you have more energy? Do you have more libido? Do you have, are you able to, do things you weren't able to do before? All those type of things. And so that's the process. I'm such a believer that, I've recommended it to many people inside the community, people outside the community. And the overwhelming issue that I've come across, Vicki, is that they can't really get their doctor to run the full lab. And then when they get the doctor to run the full labs, they go, oh, you'll be okay type thing. So I've been telling people, I don't know if you know this, but I've been telling people to consult with you, get the lab, even if they have a physician, get the labs that they should take, demand that they run those tests, and then consult with you about what your advice is. Because the problem is that you can only give prescriptions in the state that you are licensed, correct?
Yeah,
but you
in Ohio.
You can consult people on what their results mean, and then what to ask or demand from the doctor, if demand is the right word.
And you can help navigate, right? So help navigate to because I have access to some websites, and there's things that it's called MIDI Health for women, and you can get on there and look for someone in your area, whether it's Minnesota, Ohio, Michigan, whatever. And they separate it by zip code, and then you can find somebody that's going to treat you or do lab work for you in that area too. So I want to make it as easy as possible for people, for women especially, and men. But I find that, and because you have a certain community, I have access to a certain number of people, but I work every single day, and I've never done anything like this. So my dream is to be able to reach a population that doesn't know anything about this. Right.
But Vicki, I hear you, and I know I'm saying but it sounds like it's not. It sounds like it's damn near everybody.
I know it is. Well, listen, if you have a uterus and you have
I don't have a uterus.
Common for you.
Okay.
You can't get away from it. It's nothing that you've done. You haven't done anything wrong. You haven't eaten the wrong foods. You haven't not exercised enough. If you have a uterus and you have ovaries, she's coming.
Yeah.
And it's going to affect your brain, your heart, your bones. And those are every system in your body has a receptor for estrogen. But when you lose estrogen cardiovascularly, that's when we see your HDL, that's the good cholesterol, goes down. The LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, goes up. The triglycerides go up. Estrogen is a huge anti-inflammatory. It promotes nitric oxide in the vessels. So that's a chemical that kind of helps your blood vessels to dilate more easily and stay a little bit more flexible. So when you lose estrogen, those vessels become rigid. And that's where the hypertension comes from, because you can't accommodate for your blood pressure.
Right. Yes.
So then we see fat redistribution in females, because
not males.
Estrogen, males too, but yes. But for women, estrogen helps your body. Normally we have fat around the rear end and the legs, and sometimes,
like that fat.
Right? I know. But when you lose estrogen, that fat starts to change and collect in different areas, specifically around the abdomen.
Gotcha.
That is called visceral fat. That fat surrounds your organs, liver, pancreas. And so those poor organs are the ones that are producing insulin and helping you to filter everything that goes into your system. And they're chugging along because insulin goes up, glucose metabolism goes down, everything is off whack. And so fat starts to deposit. And that's just your cardiovascular system. Yeah. Your brain craves estrogen. Women are twice as likely to get dementia, because when you lose estrogen, it starts to eat away the brain. And I know that it's a very simplistic thing to say.
No, we get it. But that was what I was honestly going to say, is that, listen, if you want to catch up with Vicki, go to Instagram, and it's at Vicki, VICKI_Casey. And she's on Instagram. Follow her, message her. She posts stuff She is true to who she is. She posts stuff all the time about what we're talking about. The unfortunate truth is that we can't get to all of the nuances of what it really takes in one podcast. So we are going to have Vicki back. But Vicki, you mentioned and you have to forgive me, I did hear you, but I just don't process as fast as I used to. You said MEDI is the health thing that you have?
MIDI, M-I-D-I.
MIDI. So since we're talking about, resources, I kind of want to skip to some other resources that you would recommend. Mary Klein, Haver, MD, is an OBGYN.
Mary Claire. She's
Haver,
actually the one that I noticed first.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one that I think really pushed the movement forward. She wrote a book, The New Menopause. I don't know if this is backwards or not, but this is The New Menopause.
Yep.
It's a great book, easy read. She is brilliant. I love her. She doesn't know me, but I listen to everything she says. There's another lady, Mary Claire Haver is an OBGYN.
Right.
There is another one. What is her name? Rachel Rubin.
Oh, Rachel Rubin. Okay. Who wrote that book that looks like a textbook for Harvard? I mean, it's like this thick. She's got
I haven't read it.
You'll know her name. I can't think of. I should have brought it up. I thought maybe it was one of the women. The Menopause Moment. You're not always broken.
Kelly Casperson.
Yeah, I thought that might have been it, but maybe it wasn't her. But somebody wrote a book we listened to it. We were on a 16-hour road trip, so we put it in and started listening to it on audio book, and we could not believe what we didn't know. When I say we, Dawn and I, we're talking male, female. Neither one of us knew, and we had been working with you and listening and reading, and this book was just amazing. I'll put it in the show notes because Dawn has it. I'll put it in the show notes. But there's Kelly Casperson, there's Jane Morgan, MD. They've all written books or have research reports. So, I wanted to point out that there are some resources, some things that people can do. I've already mentioned the Diary of a CEO, and I'm not here, promoting other people's podcasts, but great podcast, right?
He's great. Mm-hmm.
They go into some really deep detail that, kind of gets a little confusing if you've not done any homework on the subject. But man, this is the time to start doing some homework. The last thing I want you to talk about, Vicki, which I didn't know, and that's why I think most people don't know. I want you to talk about, you can kind of gloss over it, but there is pre-menopause stuff that you can do. There's menopause stuff that you can do, and then there's post-menopause stuff that women need to do. Can you just kind of gloss over those three and add like some age proximity?
Sure. Yeah. So as I said, menopause in the United States statistically starts about 50 to 52. But 7 to 10 years ahead of that, you can have symptoms. And these are random symptoms that unless you are hyper aware of how your body is changing, you just don't recognize it. But the first thing is anxiety or depression, mood changes, low libido. And this can happen like 38 to 40-ish, 45. So when I have a female that's that age, I have them come in, we do blood work, we do your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, FSH, LH. Those are the major hormones that we do. I do a bunch of other stuff too. And then depending on what the levels are and what their symptoms are, we treat them. Progesterone is a great hormone for supplementation prior to losing your estrogen. And it gets a bit complicated, but progesterone's for sleep. And that's another one of the major things that women say is I wake up and 3:30 seems to be the bewitching hour when women are just like saving lives, stamping out disease, thinking about their 401k at 3 a.m. and they can't go back to sleep. And after menopause, so perimenopause is that time frame when your hormones start to fluctuate. Mm-hmm. You still have some of your ovary function. So you're having estrogen, spurts of estrogen, testosterone. And then menopause is that day after the year after the last period. It's very weird. It doesn't make any sense really, but that's what all the experts go by is a year after the last day of your period is menopause. Mm-hmm. At that time, we can look at estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, FSH and LH really don't play into it that much. It does, but estrogen is always kind of like the queen So, and that is the one that gives you most protection metabolically for your brain, your heart, your bones, genitourinary system. And then you're never through menopause.
Right.
Post-menopause, what is that?
Yeah.
I would love to know, because you never stop having effects of menopause.
Okay. Well, I'm satisfied. I'm satiated to the point to where I feel like we have, at the very least, hit the button and said, look, pay attention. Here's what you can start to do, because most people don't know what to do. Here's what you can start to do to attack this problem. It's not about being embarrassed. It's not about, not being able to get an answer. It's about you taking concise action, hearing what we're talking about, because there's so many different symptoms that you might not pay attention to them singularly in a silo. But when you start putting them together, you go, oh, maybe if I'm getting a mammogram, then I really need to start getting this. And so,
100%.
Yep. So I think, Vicki, that this conversation has been completely golden. You've given us and the audience just enough hope, but not just hope, but a blueprint to figure out the truth about hormones.
Can I say one thing?
Absolutely.
If you, as a patient, a female patient or male patient, if you are symptomatic and you go to a doctor and you say, I want to get my hormones checked, and they tell you no, find somebody else.
Yep, there you go. New doctor. I mean, that's, to me,
find somebody else.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Vicki, I want to thank you, but I want you to stay in the green room for a second so I can talk to you afterwards. So don't go anywhere just yet, okay? Hey, everybody, you know what? I can't begin to tell you how honored I am to be able to bring people to you that have the heart to want to help you. She didn't mention anything about coming to see her. She didn't mention, I said all that. She said nothing. She's not self-promoting. Her promotion is to get you to recognize you don't have to live a life of mediocrity. That's the code. We want to live a life of excellence. Mediocrity is for average people, and average people like to wallow in mediocrity. We don't want to do that. We want to be extraordinary. We want to live a higher level life, a 24K life. So I thank you for joining us. If you want to be a part of the community, go to 24klife.org, 24klife.org. Join the community. You can't miss. It's going to help you in every way possible.
That's how we do it on the 24K Life podcast. Your host, Derick Gant, just dropped the gems to help you crush fear, build wealth, and live unapologetically at the highest level. Don't keep this to yourself. Share it, tag it, spread it, and make sure you hit up 24klifecode.com and download the 24K Life app to keep the fire burning. Until next time, shine brighter, stay golden, and keep living your 24K life.
All right, everybody, be well.